Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Alternate Point of View. My name is Tracy Lee. Today, we're going to have a few segments, and it is regarding Ashley Henning. And I do want to reiterate this is about Ashley Henning. So, first of all, let's not forget to like, subscribe, and share this video. As I've stated, this trial and this entire horrific, just disgusting crime has been coming out to us in segments, and it is coming from Court TV. Thankfully, they have been able to cover this. Obviously, it hasn't been a live trial, but as I've said, it has been coming out in segments. So I've only been able to give this in bits and pieces. So now we have the closing argument from the prosecution. As we know, the defense was some kind of emotional distress. It's EED. I can't even remember the actual terminology because it's stupid. I don't even want to give it the full name because Jordan Henning he claimed that Ashley had been abusing him for years. And unfortunately, Ashley obviously is not here to defend herself. And Jordan took her life in the most disgusting, horrific way. And we already know that the jury found him guilty of the lesser charge, which was not the first degree, and it was the lesser charge of manslaughter. So we know this because the trial is already over. We also know the sentencing already. So what I want to do, though, is watch the prosecution closing argument and see, because I haven't seen this yet. And I don't know if all of you have already seen it, but I have not seen this yet. So this is my first time watching the closing argument. And this is the time when the attorneys have the opportunity to basically kind of button their entire case up in a nutshell. Okay, this is the time when they have their chance to make their final point. Now, the closing argument is not evidence, right? The trial was evidence. That was their chance to put forth everything they had as evidence. Also, I don't know if you guys remember the opening statements, but the opening statements to me, though short by the prosecution, was very impactful. I did not feel that the defense opening statement was very good. Literally from the beginning of the defense opening statement, they tried to paint Jordan as this military man. He was this great soldier, blah, 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 which to me had absolutely nothing to do with what happened. But of course, they were trying to paint him to be an upstanding person that would never do something like this, but he did. So I want to play the prosecution closing argument and just get an idea of what possibly they did or said that swayed the jury in the other direction. Because at the end of the day, even though closing arguments are not evidence, for a jury, for a layperson, let's be real, even though they've heard all of the evidence during the trial, it's honestly whichever story they like better. There is evidence, okay, but we're human. So it's really which story, which theory, which whatever sounded better, which one, along with the evidence, made more sense in their mind. Which one did they like better? So let's see what did the prosecution say that they actually liked better. So I want to hear it. So let's go to this prosecution closing argument.
Everybody here is a bad guy except Jordan Henning.
They've spent,
I got 3 hours this morning telling you what a bad guy Jimmy Watts is, what a bad guy Jason is. They've spent days telling you what a bad person Ashley is. Sergeant First Class Ashley Henning, a soldier, a mother, the woman who said, "I love you." All of the things he said about her. There's not a witness to bring forth to rebut the heinous accusations from that man. The only person who can rebut anything he said about her is dead at his hands. There is no evidence to support anything he said. Where did this all start? I told you that a storm went through that Henning house. It was Storm Jordan. How did it start? It started with him. It's a lie. Recognize it for what it is. Folks, that's exactly what I'm asking you to do. It's a lie. Everything he said is a lie. And I don't think honestly, I don't need to get too worked up. You are more than smart enough to recognize everything he said from that stand, to be able to pick apart his contradictions. I could stand here. I could run on 2 more weeks picking apart everything he said that was contradictory, flat, false. They want to tell you they want you to see this. They want you to hear his story about it. I don't know what you make of that. She threw a remote control at him. Well, we don't get to hear her part of why. What is that? His swollen lip. I love this one. I love this photo. She bit his hand. She bit the palm of his hand. Let me say that again. She bit the palm of his hand. How do you bite the palm of someone's hand? Where does your hand have to be? Right up in their face. What was he doing, if that's what this is? What was he doing to put the palm of his hand in her mouth? He is going to tell you anything he can to try and get that EED instruction. It's not intentional murder. It's extreme emotional distress. But nothing in his story rings true. Hardly anything at all in his story even sounds remotely reasonable. He's the victim of physical and emotional abuse for years. I'll tell you the truth, I have no doubt he probably is a model soldier. You heard Sergeant Major Glass admit, though, you don't know what goes on behind closed doors. You might know what a man is like at work. He might be an exemplary soldier, but you don't know what his home life is like. And you mean to tell me, drip, 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 he suffered under this unbearable mental and physical abuse for years, and it hasn't affected his job performance? He's still a model soldier. He's able to perform at the highest level. We make him the driver for the general. And yet he has suffered, and he has been so horribly affected. What's more reasonable? Who are the real victims in that home? Given what you saw in that video, isn't it more reasonable that she put up with the abuse behind closed doors for years? What's more reasonable is that maybe it went back and forth. Maybe she pushed back occasionally. But what happened on this night, all these bad guys out here who wanted to come testify, they actually saw it. What was different about this night? There was a witness. People with no reason to keep it hidden. People he couldn't intimidate into being quiet. People who were going to call 911. He couldn't control them. And he knew it was over. He knew he went too far. What was over? His career? Yeah, his career. More than that. You heard this 20-minute video. Everything is me, me, me. You did this to me. What's really over? That image of the perfect soldier. That's what's over. His reputation. That evil that he's kept hidden from everybody for all these years. That's what's over. That's what's got him so worked up. Isn't it more likely she has been the victim? And who knows who else in that home has been the victim? More likely that he's harbored these resentments for years. He told you it was great at first, right? But it's all about me. It's all about me, me, me. And when she starts to do something that doesn't please me, I start to have resentments. I start to have anger. And for years, he gave in to those. He indulged in those thoughts. He indulged in those thoughts. She's not pleasing me. It's about me. And he nurtured those feelings, and that sprouted into resentment, and it grew into hatred. When he pulled that trigger, he had been harboring hatred in his heart for her. He's like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, Soldier Jordan and Family Man Jordan.
Okay, so I'm just gonna stop it right there just for a second, because I want to say quickly, I've said that about Jordan, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, not in the video, but I actually was going to title my last video, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. So I know we're only a little bit into this closing argument, but I'm kind of on the fence about this closing argument. I know this prosecutor is very passionate. I can see that for Ashley. But he's also actually helping Jordan. I don't know if you guys can see this. Let me know in the comments what you think. But I really feel like he's actually helping the emotional whatever distress, because he's saying it's about Jordan, right? He's saying it's me, 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 me. He's saying he's been harboring this resentment for a while. And now here's this emotional argument, this big situation that comes up, and it grew into a bigger deal than it should have been. And here he's having this situation that finally triggered whatever he and Ashley have had going on, or what he's had against Ashley for so long. And I don't really buy, to be honest with you, I never bought it the entire trial that his military career was going to be over. Because to be quite frank with you, why would you take your wife's life if you thought your military career was going to be over? He was a model soldier. She was also a model soldier. Why would you destroy your entire military career by taking your wife's life? I'm sorry. You would not do that. Clearly, if he held some sort of resentment toward her, you would not be like, oh, let me destroy and ruin my life and take my wife out. That's not what you would do. So that taking your wife's life would be the last thing you would do and destroy your entire military career. I mean, divorce would be a much better option. Also, if he is sitting here saying that Jordan clearly had some sort of resentment toward Ashley, and he's been letting it build up and build up and build up this entire time, and this incident, this argument caused him to finally just be fed up with it, he's not helping this case. He's actually helping Jordan. So you guys can tell me what you think about that. Also, putting those pictures up there, we did not see this entire trial, y'all. So there's a lot of missing parts. So I don't know what he's talking about with these pictures. Clearly, there was some other evidence presented by the defense, like I said, which caused the jury to come back with the verdict they came back with, and that was the manslaughter charge. So regardless of how heinous and disgusting that video is, if y'all have seen it, like I said, I would not show it out of respect for Ashley. But what he did to her was absolutely disgusting. And obviously we thought on our end that it should have been murder one, right? But showing those pictures of Jordan's injuries, his lip, his hand, all of that, I do not feel that helps the prosecution. I don't feel showing those to the jury actually were beneficial in any way, because I know what he was trying to do. I know he was trying to say, obviously if Ashley bit Jordan in the hand, obviously Jordan's hand had to be near her mouth in order to do that. But that did not help. Okay. That just shows that Ashley was obviously in some way, shape, or form abusive towards Jordan. So that was no good. So a lot of already in the very first, 12 minutes of this closing statement, he has really not helped Ashley's case at all. And I think that's really sad. So his passion is there. He's very shaky. He's very angry. He's definitely got that. But as far as helping Ashley, I don't think he's doing that. I think he's definitely helping Jordan. And I think, unfortunately, that is not good for why she didn't get the verdict that she deserved, or that we thought she deserved, to be honest with you. So let's just keep going. I'm going to speed it up because I don't want to take the entire hour of the time that it's going to take to hear this closing argument.
Dr. Jekyll, the respected physician, the man known for his kindness and generosity, known for being good at his work as a physician. And he begins taking this potion that unlocks his dark side. A model soldier who begins indulging in those feelings of resentment. What happens with Dr. Jekyll as he keeps indulging in that potion, right? We all know this story. Eventually it overtakes him and he becomes that evil. He indulged in those feelings for years and he pulled that trigger out of hatred. And I love old movies. I love old books. I actually just read this book not long ago. In the 1968 version of this movie, Jack Palance's Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. And in the closing scene, his friend, Mr. Utterson, is confronting him as Doctor, is confronting Mr. Hyde with a gun because he knows this has to end. Mr. Hyde tells him, if you kill me, you're killing Dr. Jekyll. Mr. Utterson says, you don't understand. It's Dr. Jekyll who's responsible. Whatever rage he worked himself into, whatever hatred he had for her, he's responsible. He's the one who followed through on those emotions, who followed through on those thoughts.
Okay, so there we go. There's the manslaughter charge right there. There it is. So there, I'm going to say it. I don't know what the rest of the closing argument is, but there it is. So you just sealed it. If you kill Mr. Hyde, you kill Dr. Jekyll. So he was harboring these feelings for years. Okay, there you go. He was harboring these feelings for years. That is saying right there, whatever resentment he had toward Ashley. So whatever Ashley was doing to him. Okay, I'm not saying I'm not on Jordan's side. I just want you to know this right away. This is my alternate point of view. Okay, this is why we have this channel. So please, please, please put in the comments what you think. But this is what I am seeing in this closing argument. This is where I see the turn, where the turn went. I don't know the whole trial. Like I said, we've been getting this in bits and pieces, but here's where I think the turn went. Okay. I have not seen the defense closing arguments, but the prosecution this is where I think they lost it. Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. Okay. If you kill Mr. Hyde, you kill Dr. Jekyll. Okay. But Mr. Hyde is the one who had the resentment. Okay. He had this resentment for Ashley, but Jordan was a good guy. He was a good soldier. But he had resentment for Ashley because whatever Ashley was allegedly doing to him, he was tired of it. He was sick of it. And this was the straw that broke the camel's back was this night. Okay. And then the emotional distress came in, and this just took over his mind, his body, his everything. And that was that. Okay. And this is where the jury was like, you know what? You're right. If we do this, then, we're just taking out both of them. And then you're right. We are taking out Dr. Jekyll. So we're taking out the good guy. And the good guy is who created Mr. Hyde. So, so there you go. So we can't give, Mr. Hyde was created by Dr. Jekyll. And what created Dr. Jekyll was allegedly Ashley. Well, Ashley's not a problem anymore. So why would we put Jordan in prison and say he did this first degree for the rest of his life when an emotional issue, when an emotional thing caused this, and now the problem is eliminated? Why should we take away his life? See, I mean, let me know what you guys think in the comments about this, but that's where I'm seeing this going in a juror's mind. Possibly. That's my point of view.
He surrendered to that baser self and became evil. And now he's using the same defense so many abusers try to use. Blame the victim. It's her fault. She made me do it. And you heard him say it, right? Before he killed her. What about this idea that he just reacted based on his training? It's a reflex. You watch that video for 20 minutes, that's not a reflex. This wasn't an ambush. He wasn't triggered. There was nothing like an IED going off, a mortar round coming in. There was no impelling force overcoming his judgment, like you'll read in your instructions. He is reacting in a chaotic environment. I will give you that. It is a dangerous environment. And who made it that way? He's not reacting, he's being proactive in a chaotic environment that he created. He is using his judgment. He's trying to manage the situation. He's trying to move the pieces around the battlefield that he created out of that home. He tries to get rid of Jimmy Watts because he became a witness. Get out of here. It's none of your business. Get off my property. He realizes 911 has been called. Ashley, call him, tell him. Switch from getting the witness out of here to getting control of the witness. He changes tactics again and again. Finally, when he realizes there's nothing more he can do, he realizes the veil is gone, his career is over, he's still in control. He's going to control how it ends. One way or another, he's in control. He doesn't just have a reflex and shoot her. He doesn't just react out of muscle memory and shoot her. He has a countdown. He knows the response time. And after he starts his countdown, then he tells them somebody's going to die. This is going to end in death. There's no trigger. There's no drip, drip, drip. That's nonsense. Has to be reasonable. So let's look at this whole evening. This is the spark that set off that hellfire that ran through this house. You heard him testify. You saw the video that covered essentially from the moment visitors left until Ashley Henning died. We waved goodbye in the driveway, came in the garage, and that's about where the video picks up. That was his testimony. What's the first thing you see? Came in the kitchen, she dared to defy his order. You know, he said it. You're going to shower. You're going to bed. You're going to let me serve you. It's not what can I do to help. How can I help you relax? Can I do anything for you? You're going to do this. You're going to do that. Yeah, sure, he's a willing servant as long as it's what he's willing to do. What does she really need help with? I got the dishes. This helps me relax. Clean up your meat. He huffs off into the basement, locks the door. You hear it. I make the decisions around here. I decide what I'm going to do to help and not help. I mean, you watch the video, and then you hear him testify about it. She was screaming at me. And I'm thinking, my God, what did I do now? Because it's all about him. What did I do now? Jordan, did you put the hose on the slip and slide? Mister, I want to serve you. He's not willing to do that. He's not willing to go outside and take the hose off the slip and slide. I told you to go to bed. I told you to go shower, and you're dismissing me. So watch how he responds. How does he respond? Jordan, help me with the slip and slide. Comes storming up there. What's the first thing he says? He lied. The hell does that have to do with anything? You're an 8-year-old kid. That's really where all this starts. Really, that's where all this starts. He's pissed off some poor little 8-year-old kid couldn't undo the slip and slide that he put together. Ashley couldn't do it either. She had to ask for help. I'll use Roger's word, the cockamamie story that he came up with up here on the stand. A lie is a lie. Why did you say that? That's her rule. That's her rule, and she makes the kids do push-ups if they lie. Do you think he gives a damn about her rule? Did he get so worked up to enforce her rule? No. It's just one more time today he's been defied. One more time today he wasn't the center of attention. Drip, drip, drip. Defied, ignored, not center of attention, not paid attention to enough, not allowed to do the things he wants to do to help. Drip, drip, drip. You know, we've got everybody these folks who knew him for a year, folks who knew him for 10 months, come in here and talk about what a great soldier he is. They never saw anything like that from him. They never saw him behave that way. You even got neighbors. Never saw him behave that way. It's Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. It's his image. It's his public image, and it's what he does behind closed doors at home. Nothing has happened yet. Nothing. And his response is to yell at Carter, 8-year-old kid upstairs in a shower. Carter, get down here right now. Fix this slip and slide shit. And he's standing over there at the stairway waiting. Get out of that shower. Can't finish your shower. You're an 8-year-old kid, can't finish your shower. Get down here right now. Storms out into the yard with him. No, neighbors never saw him do anything like that. Nothing has even started yet. That's how he is. What about Jimmy attacked me? What did he say? What did he say? He said, I wasn't over top of her. He said I wasn't over top of her. Well, that's BS. It's not like I was hitting her. What'd you hear on the video? You could hear her. I can't breathe. You hear her say, I can't breathe. And then you hear Jimmy, get off of her. But you know what? From my perspective, I'm the center of the universe. She started this and he's attacking me. Let me tell you something, folks. That is not what that means in your jury instructions when it says from the defendant's perspective. We'll talk about that. And here's where it gets real. Jimmy's yelling, stop, get off of her. No, Jimmy, run, call the cops. What's his response to that? He says Jimmy attacked him, and that's why he put Jimmy in a headlock. I don't know, it's not on camera. Puts him in a headlock until he submits, and he lets him up. Yelling at him to get out of there. It's none of his business. Jimmy told me he was going to get his effing gun. Didn't hear that anywhere in the video. But what did he say he did in response? Jimmy told me he was going to get his gun. I was scared. I ran as fast as I could, got my gun out of the bedroom and ran back down. I mean, my God, he was in the bedroom for 5 minutes yelling at Ashley. You know, and he couldn't even resist this stupid lie. I didn't know if I was going to do this. Got hair done, don't worry. There's not even any hair in it. He is such a pathological liar. You're listening to it on the video. Jim says, what's that sound? While he's in the bedroom with Ashley, getting his gun. You hear this sound on the video. Everybody remember that? How many times did you hear that throughout this night? You heard it at least once in the bedroom, several times outside. What's he doing? Why are you hearing that? Call him, Ashley, call him. Tell him. When I was a police officer, we carried shotguns for the purpose of getting out in a crowd situation where you need to catch people's attention. That sound of the gun cocking is intimidating. That was his purpose, to intimidate her. He's such a pathological liar, he has to tell Jim, you know, that wasn't me charging the weapon. That was me putting the magazine in. 1 click, 2 clicks. He can't help himself. A lie is a lie. And that's all he does. Jimmy went and got a gun. I ran right back down. You know, for that matter, some guy in my yard out front, I just told him to get off my property, says I'm going to get a gun. My response is to go grab my gun and run back out and wait for him to come back. Maybe I want to call 911. We can't have police involved here. And then Jimmy had a gun. I saw it. The only evidence in this trial at all that Jimmy had a gun is his lying mouth. No one there saw Jimmy with a gun. Jimmy said he didn't have a gun. Jason said Jimmy didn't have a gun. Where did Jimmy go when he left the backyard? He went out in the street. You know what he got? He got something a hell of a lot more dangerous than a gun to Jordan Henning. He got on the phone with 911. There's a scene in that video while they're struggling in the beginning over that slip and slide. Damn slip and slide. He was trying to tell Mr. Eggert that little white blur you see sit down in the chair on that corner of the video is him sitting down in the chair. And that's when she grabbed him around the balls, is what he said. And she drug him 10 feet across the yard. Well, she must have been some kind of super soldier to drag a man that way across the yard 10 feet. You heard him talk about, he reached out and tried to grab the railing, the banister. How did Carter end up between the two of you? It was an accident. I didn't mean to grab him. I was grabbing the banister, and I grabbed Carter. You mean to tell me she's dragging him and Carter 10 feet across the yard in that manner? And he never cries out in pain. You hear all kinds of things on that video, things crashing, this, that, and the other. I think I might let out a screech. Jim went back and went through that part of the video. I don't think he expected that. I don't think he expected to be held accountable. I had thought of it this way. Yeah, I don't think he expected to be held to account. I think he thought he was going to get away with this. I don't think he thought he was going to have to explain every time he said let go. And Jim made him explain it. And you know what he did? He slipped up and told the truth. Let go. What do you mean let go? That was the slip and slide. That was the tools. That was Carter. Let go, let go, let go. Jim's going through the let goes with him. What's the one thing he never said he meant when he said let go? Lie after lie after lie. Let's look at extreme emotional disturbance. You'll have your jury sheets, your instructions. I don't even know what page it's on, and it doesn't matter. Self-defense. That doesn't even bear looking at. Self-defense. We know what self-defense is. And the instruction will say that he was in fear of, roughly speaking, imminent threat of bodily harm or something like that from Ashley Henning. She was sitting in a chair, and he was lecturing her for 5 minutes and announcing what he was going to do. The idea that she was posed an imminent threat of any kind to him at that moment. We don't even need to look at the instructions. You know why he gets the instructions? He uttered, there's no evidence that she's a threat to him whatsoever, but his words. He uttered the words, I feared for my life. Let's look at the extreme emotional disturbance on page 2. It is a temporary state of mind so enraged, inflamed, or disturbed as to overcome one's judgment. It's not just anger. It's not extreme anger. It's not being irate. It is so disturbed that it overcomes one's judgment. It doesn't say good judgment, doesn't say bad judgment. Overcomes one's judgment. And to cause one to act uncontrollably from the impelling force of the extreme emotional disturbance, rather than from evil or malicious purposes. If what you saw on that video is not evil and malicious, I don't know what is. The way he acted from the very moment they walked in that kitchen until the moment he runs out the front door, and a few minutes later when you hear the door click lock as he hit the lock thing on his phone driving away apparently. If that is not evil or malicious purpose, nothing is. You can stop right there. You don't need to read anything else. What he did was from evil and malicious purposes. EED does not apply.
Okay, so that's another spot where I think that the prosecutor screwed up, because here's the thing. No one knows, and I have never heard of EED. And the defense was able to really dig into EED, extreme emotional distress. Okay. This is a new, I think new. I've never heard of it, like I said. So it's new to me. It may be new to this jury. Okay. Extreme emotional distress is something, obviously, like I said, it's new. I've never heard of this. So this is something that the defense was able to utilize in their benefit, for Jordan Henley. And for the prosecutor to just kind of dismiss it like it was not even something that he needed to address, and move on, um, is wrong. I think he really did need to, uh, go into it and say, this was not emotional distress. This was not emotional distress. This was not emotional distress. Because, um, in the beginning of his closing argument, he's already given Jordan a lot of leash. He's not hung him in any way. He's literally already said that Jordan was suffering, resentment for Ashley, that he, had a lot of things against her. I mean, he already hung himself and hung this case. So he really needed to save himself and save Ashley and save everything that they have invested into helping Ashley get justice. And now he just completely hung Ashley and this justice out to dry, because by not addressing this situation, and obviously it's because they don't know enough about it. So I don't think, again, he did Ashley and her family any justice by not addressing this extreme emotional distress situation, by not addressing it at all and just completely dismissing it, because this is going to come up more and more, and people are going to use this defense, and it's going to be, accepted, and more people are going to get off. So I'm just saying, like, it did not look like in the video, it looked also like he was very angry and very resentful. And like he said on the stand, he was mad. He was mad. He repeated the anger that he felt over and over and over again. And if you use that and you use this extreme emotional distress disorder, you can almost understand and say, maybe he was going through some emotional distress. Maybe he was upset, even if it was over something as small as cleaning the kitchen or, cleaning stuff up or whatever. Maybe he was resentful. Maybe it finally did just snap. Maybe he finally just had enough. Why would it lead up to something as awful as taking his wife's life like that? I don't know. But you could almost say, regardless, okay, taking a life is taking a life, okay? What he did was horrific. What he did to Ashley was absolutely awful. And I still believe that when he had that malfunction, and my husband says it's called something else, okay? It's not a malfunction. But when he had that moment to go from going and reloading, okay, fixing the weapon and reloading it, then he had time to save her. He had time to call 911, or he had time to go fix the weapon and reload it. Okay. So he had time. She was moaning. She was still alive. So that, to me, and also I spoke to my husband about, like what's muscle memory, that kind of stuff. And he basically said, okay, that guy was not in a combat situation. And if he's never been to combat, then that's not how you would act in that situation. He didn't have, bullets flying over his head or anything like that. This was a very intentional movement on his part, very intentional. This is what he wanted to do, but was it caused by emotional distress, or was it caused by the fact that he really wanted her to go away? So, again, I don't believe that the prosecution helped. And again, closing arguments is not evidence, you guys. It is not evidence, but it is the last thing that the jurors hear. So they may will take in, obviously they have to take in all the evidence, but this is the last thing the jurors hear. Okay, so remember that. And if the prosecution dismisses this uh, extreme emotional distress, then if they think it's not enough to address, and then they hear the defense come along and they're really, really into it, and they've done a good job of having an expert. And by the way, like I said in the last video, strategy is everything, everything. And being the fact that Ashley was Black, they have a Black psychologist get on the stand and basically say, Jordan suffered from this. That's excellent, excellent strategy. Okay. So you can't go wrong. And I'm just saying, this was a very well executed case, obviously, by the defense.
Did not. The doctors, the lawyers, the courts, the judges, everybody uses the word trigger. It's not in there. It's a convenient way for us to describe what is meant by this. Trigger is not the law. It is a verbal shorthand for us to explain what we mean. That's the uncontrollable impelling force. That's the event that caused this state of mind. That's what we mean. That's what we're talking about when we say that word. It's not in your jury instructions. But that so-called trigger, when you go on, that's the last couple of lines. Reasonable explanation or excuse, therefore. One of the doctors gave the example, the classic example of the man walks in on his wife, shoots one or both. That is a classic instant trigger. It is so emotionally overcoming, harmful, disturbing that he reacts. And we have recognized over the years that it doesn't have to be just like that. It can be something that goes into a longer period of time, but it can't have an interruption. It has to be constant. And it has to be reasonable, a reasonable explanation, the reasonableness of which is to be determined from the viewpoint of a person in the defendant's situation. Not his viewpoint, the viewpoint of somebody in his situation, under the circumstances as he believed them to be. Well, how do you know what he believed? How do you know what he actually believed? Because you can't believe a word he says. What happens, Jim asked, what happens when a young soldier gets in trouble for domestic violence? This model soldier who served our country well, apparently for 11 years, knows the answer. You face UCMJ punishment and you'll be discharged from the military. Uniform Code of Military Justice. Our military is a cross-section of our nation. You get good and bad. They signed a piece of paper pledging to give their lives. Something most people won't do, but they are still a cross-section of our community. They have undertaken, in my mind, the most noble profession. But they are still good and bad. And he knows. He's a dedicated soldier. He knows it's over. Like we talked about, his career, his reputation, his image. Those cops come. My life is over.
Okay, again, I'm going to point this out, but I know a lot of military personnel that have had issues of adultery, issues of domestic violence. Yes, they go before seeing usually their CO or someone like that. It is not immediate discharge from the military. A lot of them get to go to counseling, especially in our today's military. It's so watered down. that they do get to have an opportunity to redeem themselves. So honestly, again, I'm going to say that this is a very weak stance that the prosecution is using as far as his military career is over. So he chose to take his wife's life. That is not a better option, especially when I can say he did get on the stand to defend himself. When he's saying that, who will you believe? What story will you take? He did get on the stand and defend himself. He did use his own words. So the jury didn't have to guess. And I know he's saying you can't believe a word he said, but he did get on the stand and he did under oath say his side of the story. So a lot of people I know, a lot of legal analysts that got on court TV, a lot of people said that was not helpful, but clearly to the jury it was. They did not have to guess. A lot of attorneys will say, don't get on the stand. It's not a good idea. It's better if you don't testify. These days, oddly enough, I'm starting to see that a lot of jurors really want to hear from the defendant themselves. They want to hear their side of the story. It's not like back in the old days, I guess, where the defendant, it was better for them not to get on the stand. So the jury wants to hear their side. And I guess by hearing his side, that really helped him in an odd way. And again, this is my point of view. So them hearing his side, actually, they like to hear his side. And I'm just going to say again, losing his military career is not a good prosecution strategy. That is not something I just don't believe he was thinking. Oh, wait, let me think. I could lose my military career by being charged with DV, or I could just take her life and lose my entire life and my kids and everything. I just don't think that was a better option for him. And I don't believe that that's what he was thinking, if he was thinking at all during this moment. So, yeah, I just think that's not a win again for the prosecution.
Let's talk about in that instruction, you know, I flipped to it. As to overcome one's judgment and to cause one to act uncontrollably. Yeah, he's right. We're going to spend a minute on control. Judgment and control. First thing we know is it's all about his control. He ain't about to let loose control. It starts with you go to bed, and it moves on to Carter's going to do it. And then it moves on to Carter getting wrapped up in the middle of this, whatever it is that he's doing to Carter, whatever it is that he's doing to Ashley, that you hear Carter screaming. You hear Ashley saying, let go of him. You hear a lot. And you hear whatever he's doing has terrified Carter so much that he runs screaming from that house. And nothing has happened yet. No trigger. Now, Carter's made it next door to call for help. Jimmy comes over. And we have a witness. Now we have a problem. We talked about this. Now we have a problem. Now he has to take charge, really take charge. He's got to get that witness out of here. He's got to get Jimmy out of here, tackle him, put him in a headlock, intimidate him, tell him to get off his property, stay out of it. But Ashley really done it. She yelled, Jimmy, run, call the police. Now we got to change tactics. You hear him ranting. You escalated this. You involved the neighbors. Now just getting Jimmy out of there, telling him to stay out of it is not enough. Now he's got to intimidate everybody. Get him to shut up. He's yelling at her. You escalated this. You involved the neighbors. He's got his gun in the bedroom, waving it around. Call him, tell him. Trying to get them to, obviously, get them to call the police, tell them everything's okay, disregard, 10-8. You know what hasn't happened yet? He hasn't snapped. He just snapped. All this stress, all this going on, he hasn't snapped. He's got a gun in his hand. Hasn't snapped. Trying to get Ashley to call Jimmy's not working. A few minutes in the bedroom, trying that approach, didn't work. Now, Ashley runs downstairs, trying to put distance. Now he runs downstairs. Now he runs outside. Now he's yelling at the neighbors. The neighbor he's terrified of that has a gun. He's yelling, "Get back here. I'm not effing around with you guys. Get over here." Can't get him on the phone to intimidate him. Got to get him here in person to do it. And again, really, where is Jimmy at this point? I'm not threatening him with a gun. No, he's threatening him with that phone out there on the street. Comes down and he's yelling. Jimmy's not there, and he's telling Ashley, "You better go find him." You know what hasn't happened yet? He hasn't snapped. But he does know time is running out. He's been working a plan to fix this, and his time is running out. His countdown starts. His plan isn't working. They're not doing what I want. I don't have much time. I got to make another decision soon. How much time do I have? Tells you what he's going to do. I know how phone calls go, he screams. I know the Hardin County response time, and he starts his 30 countdown. Gets down to 17, and he makes a decision. "This is ending in death," he yells. But what doesn't he do? Doesn't snap. Because he made the decision, this is ending in death, but not until I say so, not until I'm ready. I'm not going to tell you who I'm killing yet. Maybe he hasn't made that decision yet. And what's Ashley doing? What has she been doing this whole damn time? Please stop. Why are you doing this over and over and over? You know what I saw in that video? The single most aggressive thing I saw in that video from Ashley Henning. When she yells down for him to come up, she's over here, she's yelling Jordan up with slip and slide. He comes up and mouths off whatever it is that he said. And she walks over around the corner and she's, "Oh my God." That utterance of frustration is the most aggressive thing you will see out of Ashley Henning that entire night. So he goes on. And as she's sitting there, hasn't snapped yet. No, he's got to explain why. He's got to finally make her listen. Listen to me, listen to me. You heard as in the beginning, out there with a slip and slide in the beginning. What's this all about? She's not listening to him. When you hear her, "I can't breathe," what's he saying? Listen to me. Now, she's in that chair, and he's there with that gun, and by God, she's going to listen. He blames her. "You pushed me here. I am such a gentle man." He tells her, "This is the way it's going to go." What's he do? He still doesn't snap. She says, "If you're really a man, just put down the gun." In the first moment in 15 of that 20, 25 minutes, that she raises her voice above a whisper, and you can hear her voice shaking. "If you're really a man, put down that gun." And guess what he does? He still doesn't snap. That's what he says. This is how it goes. He says, almost 45 seconds later, "You fucking blamed me." He pulls the trigger. If anything, he is in complete control of his judgment. There's nothing reasonable about it. But there is a method to his actions. He is in full control. There is a sick logical flow to what he's doing. There's a decision tree there to what he's doing. He gets out, one more. Gets out on that traffic stop. He's like a mile from the house. Gets pulled over right away. What's he do? He pulls over right away. Deputy Shoemake testified. Got him out of the car. Felony stop. Driver, put your hand out the door. Open the door from the outside. Driver, get out of the vehicle. Driver, raise your hands. Driver, Raise up your shirt, driver walk backwards to you. Driver, get down on your knees. Gets him in handcuffs. He complies with all that. Gets him in handcuffs. Totally compliant. Then he tells Deputy Shoemate that he threw a gun. He threw a gun because I didn't want you to think I was a threat. He makes another decision. His tactic has changed to manipulation now. Can you see the video when they come back with the EMT to check on him? He's banging his head on the back of the shield, the cage. He's crying, saying, "Shoot me." He didn't want to die. He threw the gun so we know he wasn't a threat. He came up with somebody else who had a gun, somebody who could be a threat to him, somebody who couldn't intimidate. Don't want to be a threat. You can't find the ED if there's malicious purpose. And I've said over and over, I think at this point, if this isn't malicious, I don't know what it is. What are his words? The instant they left, you turned on me. That's why he did it. Just like I said you would be turned on me. He testified up here, he was upset at her for overriding me. She overruled me on everything. This is all about his ego, his whiny little ego. You elevated this to the neighbors. Talking about the neighbors testifying or getting involved. She's turning people who are my friends against me. Look what you did. You took it out on me. You blamed it on me. It's because of you. You pushed me to this point. And all, he remembers all kinds of good details in this story that help him. When he's up here talking to Jim, he can't even remember the things that should be easy to explain. You don't have to remember it. What was the problem with her mom? You've been married to her for 7 years. You don't know what the problem with her mom is? You can't tell me right now? Blamed it on me. Blame what on you? What's she always blaming on you? Been married 7 years. It's been a hellscape. Can't think of anything that she would always blame me for. I can't believe I need to go on. Malicious purpose to protect his little ego. Motive. The veil is gone. Everyone will finally know who he really is. My career is over. This is ending in death tonight. You got the neighbors involved. You pushed me to this. He thinks it's a phone call. It's ending his life. By God, she's the one that yelled call. He's going to end hers too. Vengeance. Reasonable. We'll talk about that. What's missing? You never hear her crying out in pain. All that ranting and raving about you blame me, all that. I never heard, "You'll never hit me again." Never heard, "You grabbed me there for the last time," nothing like that. Never heard him yell, "Jimmy, put the gun down." He supposedly sees Jimmy with a gun. He's supposedly so afraid. That's what's really going on. He's terrified of Jimmy with a gun. Now he's got a gun. He can intimidate Jimmy. Maybe he can say, "Jimmy, put your gun down," if that's what he's really worried about. Jimmy, you better not come back over here if he's really worried about what Jimmy's going to do with the gun. We'll leave you with this. We have a tradition in this country that we do not leave a soldier on the battlefield. Don't leave them laying out there to die. That is exactly what he did. He created a battlefield out of that house. He shot her 2 bullets through her heart, and he left her on that battlefield to die. He is guilty of murder and nothing less.
So, I mean, some of the closing argument was impactful. He was very passionate. I can see that. But I mean, and you guys just say in the comments what you think, but I really feel like a lot of that helped Jordan more than it helped the prosecution. I really feel that combined with what we didn't see in the trial, what we weren't able to see, I feel that whatever the defense showed, obviously they were pictures of Jordan. I feel that the prosecution should not have shown pictures of Jordan. I really feel that the prosecution should have shown more of Ashley. I think that they should have shown what happened to Ashley. I think they should have focused on Ashley. really personalized her more. I don't know what the laws are in Kentucky. I know they're not allowed to really give a lot about the victim. But I know they had enough stuff there that they were able to show. Like, they should have shown the video. They should have shown, and I hate that. They should have just kept showing that video, the part where he just kept doing what he did. I mean, I hate that. They should have shown how he spit on her. I mean, that is not uh there's an entire video. There's a video where they had a birthday party, for goodness sake. What led up to this incident? Like, she wasn't doing anything. Also, I feel like he could have left Carter out of this a lot, because poor Carter, he's a child. He is going to be scarred from this, traumatized from this for the rest of his life. And he's already going to have to replay this in his mind for the rest of, he saw it. He was there. And I think that this is going to be a catch-22. It was a catch-22 for the jurors. I mean, you did tell your kid to get the slip and slide. Ashley was basically, and it's terrible that it's over something so minuscule, but was it? That's what the defense probably put into play, was like, it wasn't over the slip and slide. And I hope that Carter grows up understanding that it wasn't about the slip and slide. This wasn't about that. It wasn't about Carter. It just wasn't. And I hope that he understands that. I hope that he, if there's a way to let him know, this is not what happened. This happened because Jordan was obviously, he has demons in his body and in his heart and in his soul that he could not control. And they finally came out, and it came out against his mother. And it is not Carter's fault. And I hope that somehow, some way, Carter will grow up understanding that and not blame himself, because a child should never, never, ever blame themselves for something so horrific. And I just feel terrible. I feel awful that the prosecution said anything about this. I feel terrible that these children were even mentioned in this trial or brought forth in this trial. And I'm sure the defense did the same thing. And I'm sure what's even sadder is that Jordan, the father, the person who took Ashley's life, allowed it. I just think it's awful, because that was part of his defense even. So this episode is totally about the closing argument and how I am using my point of view to kind of just pick it apart and let you know what I think, and did it help or hurt Ashley's case, and for her to get justice. And I really felt like, for the most part, I think that is why the jury came back with the verdict they did. There was a lot of moving parts, obviously a lot that we did not see. And I really feel like, again, I'm going to say, I feel like her friend who testified did not help her at all. And I know she was very passionate. The passion was there. But I really feel like her testimony did not help. It also didn't help because her friend also said that Jordan was not abusive. A lot of people said Jordan was not abusive. And so there was that. Also, they didn't say that Ashley was either, but they said they had a pretty decent marriage. But like Jordan said himself, even on the stand, that, his acts of love were physical touch. And hers were, I believe, showing kindness. She liked to have things shown differently. So, I mean, I can tell you, like, my relationship, my husband is physical touch, and mine's are giving and receiving gifts. So, as you can see, so everybody has a different love language. So it's completely, it just depends on what people like. And not everybody's is the same, and that's okay. But they all have said the same thing. And even Ashley's family members, in my next video, you will see, they all said that Jordan was not abusive. So I just think that you can tell that this was not an abusive relationship. So you can't put into context like the remote situation where the prosecutor showed Jordan's pictures in that closing argument. She could have tossed him the remote from another side of the room and been like, here's the remote, and it could have hit him in the mouth. It couldn't have been an abuse situation. It could have just like chunked him in the mouth, and she was like, oh crap, I didn't mean to do that. It may not have been any kind of abuse whatsoever. So you don't ever know. There has to be context. Now, if there's a like complete like broken arm or something like that, now there may be something, I don't know, he could have fallen. You never know the context. Okay. So I'm just saying, I don't believe the prosecution helped. There's a lot of parts of this case that I feel like the prosecution did not, I guess, obviously prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt for the first degree. And I believe that is sad for Ashley. Unfortunately, you would think the video would be enough, but again, I have worked in my field of work. I literally did nothing but have video evidence for my cases. And a lot of times, video is all in, just like everything is in the eye of the beholder, y'all. It all depends on how you look at it, and context is necessary. Okay. Just because you have a video, it's all in how you're looking at it. It all depends, because you got to know the before and during and after. And people always want to know the things you can't see. Okay. And you got to paint the picture. So the defense clearly painted a better picture than the prosecution. And like I said, it's all about which story you believe better. And the prosecution's story clearly was not painted as well as the defense. And the defense strategy worked better. And that is just my alternate point of view for this video. Let me know what you guys think. Thanks for sitting through this lengthy one. And I hope you will join me for the next one, where we're going to continue this story, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.